All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Super Lemon Haze. Actually, before I forget, is this all? Are we good to
You're
go?
good to go. It's a good way to start. Thanks.
Yeah, it's so good, man. Whew. There was so. Do you know this thing called a Discord? Have you heard of the Discord? Do you know what the Discord is? A Discord app? No. So basically, if you think back, like what we were doing in like the late '90s when the internet started with like AOL, everyone was going into like chat rooms.
Yeah.
Right. So
ASL.
yeah, basically. So the Discord is this alternative universe of the Kirk Minahan show. So if you think about like there's like it's the Kirk Minahan show is like a tower, and there's always different floors to it. So if you go to the top, the penthouse suite, that's where Kirk and Mike and Steve all are taping their show. And then each and every level before you get to the penthouse suite is like all of these different components to their brand.
Okay.
One of them is the YouTube channel, which is what we're doing. And then, there's there's Twitter, there's all these like different social media type feeds that are all kind of filtering into the content of the Kirk Minahan show. So pretty much anything that goes on in any of these other floors eventually take that elevator up. And, the big brains, the big guy, Kirk, just kind of like deciphers what he's going to use that day for that show. So we are always constantly creating.
He's got a lot of content bubble.
A lot of content. And did you see that we got on?
I did.
You just We're trapped in the mind of Blind Mike.
I think you've worked your way successfully.
Yeah.
Into the mind
so whatever I've done, I think it's Inception, right? Inception's the movie with Leo.
As Elprez would say, you own a little bit of real estate in there.
I do.
No disrespect, Blind.
No.
Very gracious.
Yeah. So they were doing they were taking calls as they do now. Have you heard that?
You've showed me, you've sent me some good content I've been able to review.
Yeah, so I've been relatively successful at getting onto some of those shows. But I think because of some of the feedback I was getting from Blind Mike, which is that I was becoming a little bit too persistent.
Yeah.
And so I decided personally that I was just going to dial it back a little bit. I just wanted to like take a step back, focus on really what I wanted to do with you, which was this.
Yeah. And as I've said to you too, we need to get to work a little bit. We just need to get our content going.
Right.
You've done a good job harassing everybody. Now it's time to let's get it down.
Exactly. So I've decided to no longer harass people and just dial it back a little bit. But on yesterday's show, there was
we still got to let you be you, by the way.
That's the only problem. See, that is the fucking problem is that I can stay in the moment and be like, all right, Eric, because every time that they go live, Kirk or the show tweets out 5 live lines, basically like 5 open lines, and they want them filled, and he wants them filled for as ever long they're going to be taking calls. And it's so, I would say in the last like week and a half, they've been taking calls from anywhere between like 9:30 and 10:30. So within that hour, you have a window of time to get on that show. And last week and the week before, I was always pushing to get onto these shows, and I've been able to get in there, but I have not recently because, like I said, I'm trying to like withhold from doing that. But yesterday,
you're behaving yourself.
I'm doing the best that I can, man. So yesterday there was a gentleman that went on the phone his name's Jon Stewart. And he's a special dude. He's got some stuff. I'm not sure what. He disclosed some things on the radio. I have no idea if it's true or not, but he's like, I've got this. The bottom line is he's a huge fan, and he gets on the radio. He gives like a maybe 5 to 10 minute spiel. Kirk's trying to like pull some questions out of him, but he's not that interested. So he kind of just signs off. And the funny thing is that like, so sometimes before they tweet out that message that everyone should just dial in, some people call ahead. I think they just are anticipating that people are going to, because I guess when he announces it, then you're fighting for a spot. I might call like 20, 30 times, and I'm just like redial until it gets through. Some people don't have that kind of patience, but I'm persistent, as you know. I just go. I'll fucking go for 50 times. I'll go for like 10 minutes straight. And if it doesn't pick up, then I'm like, all right, maybe I'll just give it a break. So some people are trying to call ahead before, like anticipating them before they announce that they're opening up the lines. This guy, Jon Stewart, gets in. He gives his little spiel. Nothing much happens. And then someone else calls in. So before they've announced to the community, you can call in now. And then they're just going through the ranks of like, all right, well, another call. Should we take it? And like, yeah, we should take it. And then they start going through like, oh, well, let's take a guess who it is. And the first person that Mike suggested was us. He's like, oh, it's that guy from Super Lemon Haze. Kirk's
Fucking
like,
guy.
yeah. Kirk's like, oh no. And Steve's like, yeah, it's probably him. Well, it wasn't me, by the way. But so getting back the Discord. So all
Shout
these
out to Super Lemon Haze, just like that. though.
exactly
Hanging
So,
around.
Cheers.
Still lingering.
Hold on. So all these different floors, all these different personalities, all these different people producing content. And I said this week too, because I actually think this is brilliant. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, I know Barstool is just like this enormous universe right now. And I guess that's just sort of how it started, that people just, who weren't doing this as a full-time gig, who were talented, just started producing. And that's why Portnoy's like, hey, get that guy on. And he's just, I think he's a genius in that sense, where he's always been able to kind of pick out people who you probably in any other world will be like, oh man, I'm not going to give that guy any time. He's been able to do some incredible recruitment for his brand.
Yeah, it started with blogs. Now it's social media content, video content, Instagram content. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's amazing.
So I think that Kirk creating this YouTube channel for fans to produce content, it's just like, it's an amazing concept, because the people who want to get on that channel are probably the people that pay a lot of attention to it. Not to say the most, but who are really into the community. And we want to like only do one thing, and that's really to help the show. And very few people, I think, have like alternative motives to like, find some level of fame, or like, I think the fact that this show is presented by Barstool is attractive to some people. So some people will be like, oh man, if I keep going on, if I keep getting on their channel, if I keep getting some notoriety, some publicity, maybe I'll get some eyes looking at me from the bigger company than just the KMS show. But that's not us. And that's definitely not me. Like, I'm just here to fucking like have fun, have a good time. And I do love the entertainment piece, and I love being able to produce something that we find to be original, and that we think it's obviously a good thing for people to consume, especially all the stuff that's been going on. But this Discord thing is this like alternative universe that's still connected to this fucking Hightower.
Okay.
And it's like the blackest of black holes.
Why are we worried about this Discord thing?
It's not a worry. It's just, I'm just trying to tell you that I was on it last night. Because
Okay.
my first, so anyone can get on it. So any fan can just get accepted. And it's just basically you download an app on your fucking phone or iPad or on the computer, and they just give you an invite. You go through these couple steps, and all of a sudden you're in the world, in this like alternative, like underground. That's basically what it is. It's like an underground of all like it's like all of the KMS fans that want nothing to do with like a lot of the other higher profile channels. Like, they don't want to be on the YouTube. They don't want to be like on the Twitter. Like, they might even have a Twitter handle. Like, a lot of them, I think, are just going to the Discord just to kind of like fucking talk about the show.
Forum for Kirk Minahan people that don't want to be on regular forums.
Basically.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's like the fucking dungeon.
You've now
it's like,
gone to this place.
yes.
Okay.
I had to, because like for me, this is research. Like I absolutely want to be a part of this world. Like I said, there's something that I've connected to with this channel, with this community, with Kirk and the show, and it's even more intense now, only because I think we're just fucking stuck in this Corona world. Like I have been excited about this for a while, and we obviously picked this idea up a month or so ago when we were on vacation. But every week that we've been just fucking home. And just like I was saying this today, and I put this on my Instagram feed, like I have no fucking idea what today is. None. I woke up this morning. I'm not even joking. I woke up this morning. It's the same fucking routine. You wake up, you feed the baby, you change the diapers. We switch off, blah, blah, blah. We take a nap. It's 7:30. Then I have to get up and take a shower. And I'm looking at the cabinet, because I like I said, I do take a little dose of some medicines, and I keep track of them. And I'm fucking I never miss a day. Like, and every single time that there's a pill missing, I know that Jenny's either taken it or someone's borrowed it or whatever it is. And so I'm in the cabinet, I'm looking at the thing, and I'm like, I don't even know which one to pop up. I'm like, I don't.
What day? Well, even pick any of these three
exactly
in the middle,
and I could shake them and know which ones I'm up to. So like, thank God I've gone that far. But like, I'm looking at.
Or
the
you could
thing
just go one by one and hope for the best.
Basically.
Process of elimination, you'll get there. But yeah, that's if I mean, I'm lucky to have this out to a degree. I have to keep track of some dates and some times of my job. So I've been, but I found myself looking at my phone like many times. Like wait a minute, what is it today? It's Thursday. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like I have just been more involved in this. So I'm like I'm like on Twitter, probably more than I should, but I'm on Twitter, and I'm starting to experiment with these other channels. And the Discord was my deep dive last night. I deep dove into this fucking Discord, and it was exciting. So there's one thing that I thought was pretty incredible. There's all these different like chat rooms and shit where people are just like shooting the shit. Like there's obviously different topics. There's like the Kurt Minisham show. There's like all these other things that people can just kind of jump into. And this one is the voice chat. So basically it's people, and there's only one of these rooms. So it's not like there's multiple voice chats. So basically anyone who's got a headset and a computer or an iPhone or whatever can just enter into this room, and they're not typing now. Now they're like
just talking to each other.
Ooh,
that sounds exciting. So
yeah,
you're getting a little some pair offs going.
Basically. Okay. And it was just like, again, I'm doing this for research because I really do want to learn as much as I can about this. I want to know exactly also
why the fuck can't we just do this on Twitter? What's the problem?
What?
Why do we have to go to this other place? Why don't we just do this on Twitter? I don't get it.
Because it's a different crowd. A lot of these people don't exist on Twitter. It's just
they
like
can't make another Twitter egg profile. They can't do
it's
that.
Not that
it won't work that way.
Like I said, it's not that they can. And I think that's the sort of the incredible thing about this podcast, the Kurt Minahan Show, is that I think they've attracted like the outliers. You know what I mean?
Dark
like
web is the dark web.
That's what the dark web. That's what the
deep web.
That's what the Discord is. The Discord is a fucking dark, deep dungeon.
Also, second question, and I'm done. I promise.
Yeah.
What would Kirk and Blind Mike and Steve think of the fact that you've been fucking around in this Discord?
Well,
would they be okay with this? I don't think so. I don't like it.
Well, so some of the people from the Twitter and mainstream world who actually do have YouTube personalities on shows were in some of these discussions last night. So and actually one of them, I think his name is BA Barstool Advisor, did tweet out a picture. He screenshotted the people who were in the room in the voice chat last night, and my name was on there.
Oh boy. Which
is all right though, but I'll tell you, and the
documented proof you're part of the
the unique and interesting thing is that, like, each and every one of these people has like their own lives, right? Like we're all connected through this one channel, through the Kirk Minahan Show. And it's interesting to get to know them. So basically, like at 10:30 last night, I'm on this thing, and Jenny's making a brisket, which was amazing. We just had that. And she hears me like talking, and she's like, "Who the fuck are you talking to?" And her brain's like, I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I have to explain myself." I'm in
this forum.
I'm in this fucking chat room, talking to complete strangers who I've never met before. And again, I get their eyes rolled back, and then I have to like, I disappeared for like 20 minutes. So I was on there listening, and talking, trying to get to know the people that were in this room. And then all of a sudden I was gone. For those 20 minutes that I was gone, I was trying to explain to my wife where I was and what I was doing.
Yeah, I want to know what Blind Mike would think of this. I want to know what he'd think about this fuckery.
He probably would call me the most annoying person on planet. I think he still thinks
he already is saying that. Yeah, but what would he think about you being in there? That's the question.
I mean, I actually think that I think the people in the room appreciated it. So I don't really give a fuck what Blind Mike thinks. He doesn't own any real estate in my mind. To me, he was always just a means to getting to what we wanted to do, which was to provide some content.
That's fair.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't really give a fuck what he thinks about us. I think it's funny that he brings us up when I'm not even in the room.
That's
like
great.
Like yesterday, that was an interesting thing. But for me, it was a great experience because I got to know some of the other guys and some of the other girls who are doing this. And I think, like I said, like for me, it's getting a greater picture as to kind of who is listening to the show, because I think for us to make this more relevant, and I think that was one of the biggest criticisms for us trying to develop this podcast, when we sent them that pitch, and probably even connected to them with the first or second episode, they were like, this is not going to fly. That was a big Steve message. And Blind Mike
wants to hear a podcast about just weed.
Yeah, we don't want to hear about fucking weed, and we don't want to just hear about these two dudes. But like, and Blind Mike's one of his original feedbacks to us was try to make it a little bit more relevant to the Kirk Minahan world. And and I guess for me, I wasn't exactly sure how to do that initially. And I think over the last couple of weeks, trying these other avenues and trying to get some feedback from people and trying to get to know other people who are listeners, Kirk calls them like customers, but I call them listeners. I think these are people that are just listening to this content because it's providing them some level of escape from the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think you've done a good job of just sort of introing most of our shows with a little bit of that content to kind of start things off, and then obviously it kind of spirals off from there into who the fuck knows. But
Right.
You've done a good job, I think, of just sort of kind of setting the stage as we start these podcasts, all of them. I think if you go back through them, your kind of intro start has mostly been something relevant to the show or trying to tie back like what we're trying to do and how it relates a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that it's almost like paying homage to like these guys, because like I'm not here just to like do a show about health and wellness and weed for ourselves. Like I think, my goal was always to be able to provide something for Kirk and for that show. And I guess in the beginning for me, it was always like, I never know if this is ever going to go anywhere. Like I didn't know if we were going to ever get on this YouTube channel. Like I was pushing, I was persistent, but I always wanted to make sure that in the end, if we were just to kind of come up with the 10 episodes, which is what,
so we were still going to just do.
Yeah, we're just going to do 10 episodes. And I thought that you kept calling it like the body work. And I think that's a great concept. Like in my mind, I'm like, all right, 10 episodes, body work, just kind of prove that you and I could just do our thing. Yeah.
It's great that we got noticed the way we did and got put up there, but that still doesn't change what it doesn't. I don't give a shit. Like if we don't go up for the second week or the third week or whatever, that doesn't matter. I'm still gonna come over here and do this.
Yeah, and I think I actually think that's what I kind of came away with this week. Like I don't want to be a fucking dick. And
I haven't talked to you. This is also great because we're just like turning this on and going, because I haven't talked to you all this week. I've had a fucked up crazy week too. So this is good. I'm glad to hear this. Keep going, please.
Excuse me. I
just want to set the stage.
Are you talking about work or personal?
Yeah, no, just work wise. Yeah, just busy.
Yeah, we're not talking about work on this.
No, of course not. I'm just saying I haven't had a chance to. I'm setting the stages. I haven't had a chance to really catch up with you. So this is good. I'm glad to hear that you're coming to some of these realizations. I'm hearing this for the first time, is what I'm saying to the audience.
No, and again, I think what I am saying and what I'll repeat is that, we're just. I want to just do this, man. This is a blast, and again, we're in this fucking weird place where everyone's just fucking.
Yeah, we picked a hell of a time to start a podcast.
I know it's the perfect fucking time to start a podcast.
Yeah, we're avoiding crowds. That's for sure. It's good.
I mean, aside from fucking making out over a pen,
right? I think we were doing that before this all started, so I don't know.
That's a good point. If you have it, I have it. If I have it, you have it, and we're gonna fucking hold hands.
And so far, we've been good. So everything's I'm okay. No signs.
Yeah. So again, interesting week. That was the first thing that I kind of like dabbled in. The other thing too that there's something that happened today on the channel, and I want to ask you, because I know you're an old school Barstool person, probably a bigger fan back in the day than I was. Have you ever heard of this guy, Barstool Zonker? Does that make any sense to you whatsoever?
No, I got nothing on Zonker. No.
So I was also like in the big like unknown, and I was doing a little bit of research myself today, because like what had happened was, and I guess he's like a legend in the whole Barstool lore. Like he's been around for like 13 years.
Zonker?
His name is Barstool Zonker, and I have no idea if that name changed over time, but I guess he always went by Zonker. So that's kind of how, and that's his Twitter name is Barstool Zonker.
Okay.
The quick story is that he, for the length of time, has owned Barstool.com.
Oh,
do you know about this?
I think I might have heard something.
Is that joggling a little?
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Fired.
Okay.
Do you want to add anything? Or
no, I don't. I don't really. No. Please keep going. I don't have much. I mean, that sounds right.
Well, I mean, so the story goes is that, again, I'm only taking this from what I've looked into today, but basically he was a person who owned this channel. And also in the fact, and I don't know what the bottom line was, but or what started this. I guess it was because he may have wanted to get in. So he owned this thing, and I think he also may have wanted to get into one of their blackout parties like over 10 years ago. And I guess somehow shit got fucked up and he never got a ticket. And ever since then, he's hated David Portnoy. So it's talking about like owning real estate in Blind Mike's eyes. Like this dude has owned real estate in Portnoy's eyes for like 15, 13 years, whatever it's been. And so what happens is he has just been almost like, I don't say he's not trolling Portnoy, but what would happen is people who are trying to get in touch with Portnoy, they would email, but they would send it to blah blah blah,
And
like
it would go
tips
to the
at
wrong-
Barstool. It would go to the wrong person. So he was smart enough to sort of own all these addresses and all these email addresses. So people were trying to send an email to like KFC or to Big Cat or to Portnoy, and it would go to him, and he would 100% respond and do it in a very like snarky like way.
Yeah.
And so and I guess that always like affected David in some funky way. Like he just always wanted to just like fucking own that channel because of what was happening in the beginning, but also at some point I think in time he wanted to rebrand and get rid of the sports part. And I think as you can see that now, like it's not like they are Barstool Sports, but not everything they do is sports content. So
Yeah, I mean, talk old school Barstool, and you're saying the Z. I'm thinking Zolo. Remember Zolo? He was the music guy. You were saying the Blackout Tour too, so it made me think of it. But Barstool Zolo. He was this like cheesy like techno music guy that Dave had for a while, and he would write like crappy music blogs and like post SoundCloud videos and shit. And people in the comments section back in the day would fucking crush him. It was the greatest stuff ever. But anyway,
I don't know that.
I digress.
That's
Zolo.
not a digress.
Shout out Zolo.
Yeah.
Old school Barstool.
Shout out Zolo. But I think that's it. Like I think Barstool, Barstool has been around longer than I think a lot of people realize. It's been, I mean, again, like, and that's the other unique thing about this Discord place is that it really does attract some of the younger folks. Like the older people, like I'm not saying older, but like the older
old farts,
old farts, us longer time listeners. That's a good way of putting it.
Aging stoolies.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We now have all kids and a lot more facial hair. So basically, it's a much younger crowd. So I don't really have a lot in common with them, but I know they're all like in like their early 20s and 20s, and so they do have more of like a Barstool flavor, like today's Barstool flavor, like kind of like the smoke shows and all that. They like like if you think about like some of the like the Robbies and all the kind of the personalities today, they're kind of like the chicks in the office, like like it's just like a younger crowd. I mean, they're still obviously appealing to like the 40s and stuff, but like I think their biggest market is still that 25 to 35 year olds.
Yeah.
And that's who these guys are.
And our age, it's like it's weird now. I mean, I've been I'm an old, and this is where the Minifans are gonna hate me, but I'm an old school KFC guy for years, a long time ago too. And then obviously, Pardon My Take and Big Cat and all that. And I love watching Prez videos, whether it's a pizza review or whatever the fuck he's doing, just dicking around. I'm always a older fan, but yeah, some of this newer stuff that comes out, I don't know what the fuck they're even talking about.
Right. Yeah, and I can't say that I've caught on to a lot of either. Like I think that I guess when I see how popular they get, like for example, like the chicks in the office thing, these are basically two young women who came into
his
office.
Listened to him too.
Yeah,
and I mean, obviously, know Hank, love Hank forever.
Well,
and
there
know
you
that
go.
he's with, and I remember when Rhea was a intern, and they wrote about that. She was Caleb's intern, my intern of my interns, and all that bullshit back a few years ago. I remember all. It was great. It was great stuff, but the shit that they're talking about, I have no idea.
Yeah. So this guy Zonker has owned this Barstool.com page, and then just I guess completely randomly. So so again, this is kind of I'm explaining this to you, but probably not to the people who are listening to the show. But someone calling, Jay.
No, you're good.
Oh, I heard my name calling. Sorry.
It's probably that lemon haze.
I know. Is that what it is?
Guy a little paranoid.
Not paranoid. maybe slightly. The Minifans and the Mincels. That's what we're dealing with right now.
Got it.
So the Minifans are people like us, probably the people who were longtime listeners of EEI or sports radio. Listened to all the people who went through those ranks, and then obviously caught on to the Kirk and Callahan show. When I've been listening to them since they were like it was Dino and Kirk. I mean, Dino and Kirk and Cal and Jerry. So basically, those are like kind of like the Minifans. Like we're a little bit more older, maybe a little bit more mature. We kind of also hang out in the Twitterverse. There's like these Mincel guys who are the younger generation of Minifans, and they're climbing the ranks relatively fast when it comes to popularity.
They sound like tougher and meaner.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. Like at first, we didn't get off on the right foot. So we, meaning like me versus
you
like
and
all
the
of them.
Mincels.
Yeah,
you've been fucking around with these Mincels.
I have.
Oh wow.
I've there's a number of them. So on their show there's like 4 dudes who are all on the show pretty much week to week. Phil, BA, John, and Will, our guy Will, who's not dead, by the way. He
Got it.
survived.
Will's
he,
okay.
He recovered.
Cool.
So those guys.
Will's a
And,
Mincel.
he's on the Mincel show. I actually didn't really understand if he was a part of that world or if he was just like a producer, like because you know how he was going to produce our show, but never fucking did.
He didn't.
No, I think he hangs out on their show.
Makes sense. He's a Mincel. He's a
Well, no, I
Mincel
think
guy.
I think he basically hangs out on that show just to make sure they don't cause any trouble. Because not to say that they're troublemakers, but I think that they have more of a propensity to like, to cause ripples in the universe, in the Minifan universe, the Miniverse, than some of the older folks, some of the older school guys. So I think Will eventually just kind of became a part of the show because he was there, not to babysit, but just to kind of look over and watch out for them.
We've got a hall monitor for the Mincel.
Exactly. So Will's the hall monitor.
Okay.
And then sometimes they bring in on some other guests. So there was another guy who came on, and he and I did not get on. We got off on the wrong foot. Let's just put it
Who's
that
this
way.
one? Which Mincel is this one?
Well, so he goes by the name Menners, right? And he's an Australian dude.
Okay.
And he's got his own like cricket show and everything, and he's a cunt. I mean, he prides himself on being a cunt. Like he really does. He's like, I'm an asshole, I'm a cunt. And he basically does things that I don't think I could ever do. Like he talks like he wants to get people canceled. Like he just hates and he fucks around. I can't tell. I actually don't think so. I actually think he's
Is he an Australian living in America, or is he an Australian?
No,
in
he's
Australia.
He's Aussie times Aussie. He's living there. He is there. But I guess I don't even know the backstory of how he became connected to. It probably could have been through Barstool, but he's basically a force. He's become a force in this world. And I guess actually no. I know now why he recently became so very popular was because he's actually the person that called out Steve. Do you know about the Steve?
You told me about the controversy.
Yeah, the controversy of Steve being suspended was because he scrubbed an episode,
and he was the one that called him out.
And Menners was the guy who was, because I guess Steve may have said something on one of the later podcasts. He tried to go back in time to find, I guess, the line of thinking that was contradicting what Steve had said. This is how intense.
How you unified with him.
Well, it wasn't a unification.
You could see how you.
Well, I love and appreciate that effort, because to me that was impressive. Because again, that's the intensity of some of these dudes, is that like they hang on to every single word and remembered. Like, I mean, we're talking like 8 months ago. He remembered an episode. Impressive.
It means that they're true fans. It's badass.
Basically. So
Menners, it's a little sick and twisted, but it's badass. Fair.
But again, I respect it. I mean, if you look at these fucking time, I mean, like, clearly we
all know what you're doing.
Exactly. Or at least what I've done, because I'm not doing that anymore. Remember,
you're going to behave yourself.
I'm down to back. I'm behaving myself.
But obviously, you and the Mincels can find some common ground, it seems.
Well, so the point that I'm trying to make is that like I DM'd Menners. And I sent him like a couple texts, and it wasn't like I was trying to like piss him off or whatever, but I said something because there was, and this is the other thing, this is all connected together. I promise. This is how it always goes. There's always a point to all these.
You're probably going to tell me he works out and smokes weed. We'll see.
Oh, everyone fucking smokes weed. Actually, they make fun of me because I don't smoke enough weed. They know that I'm like a fucking newbie when it comes to this shit, and I get made fun of a lot, which is fine. I fucking take it like a sport. I don't care. I'm not afraid to say that I don't fucking do this, and I do it now, but I didn't. But now we're gonna
get you doing it and talking about it, which is even better.
Exactly. So anyway, so I was DMing Menners, and Menners decided that he was going to cut and paste some of my text, and he posted it to Twitter.
Oh, he outed you, huh?
He outed me, and it wasn't like I was. And the point is, and the reason why like he and I got into this back and forth was because he just took whatever I was saying out of context and thought that I was like shitting on the Mincels, which I wasn't, because I do respect these guys. But and he just sort of cut and pasted a part of the conversation and put it on Twitter. And I actually had the other side of the conversation, which pretty much said there was a miscommunication, and he actually was rooting for us. What the fuck again?
Did you validate yourself to the Mincels?
Well, so I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make. So
have you been vindicated?
Maybe they could speak on this topic better than I can, but I feel like in the past week or so, after I had this sort of back and forth with Menners, they've had come around a little bit, and I think are starting to root for us, which is great.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Yeah. So that was the point. So I was in the dungeons of the Minifan universe
Cool.
in the Discord,
Yeah.
just trying to learn about all the different people that are listening to this podcast.
Try not to piss off the mincels. Got it.
So Zonker, getting back to Zonker.
Zonker.
So he's always owned real estate in Dave Portnoy's mind. And I don't even know how this happened, but one of the guys from the Mincels decided, I don't know, they were going to barstool.com for whatever reason and realized that it actually connected to their latest episode completely randomly. So think about the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
right? And somehow, for whatever reason, this Zonker's guy linked barstool.com to their latest episode.
Is he a fan?
Well, that's exactly what happened. So, you know, and I kind of noticed this because the fact that I've been on Twitter, responding, replying, and following for the last week or so, I've noticed this guy Zonker. And I didn't know about this guy until this week. I noticed that he started, because you can kind of feel who are the people that kind of really do participate in a lot of the banter and a lot of the back and the forth. And this guy didn't register with me. He was like a new guy. And sometimes, obviously, in this universe, people create parody accounts like me,
right?
Or they create alternate parody accounts. So some people walk around with like 3 or 4 of these accounts.
I don't know how the fuck you people do that.
Exactly. And they're just like switching back and forth and just like,
I have like 4
commenting
email accounts. 4 email accounts is enough for me. Then you got to have all. Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
So I see this guy's Barstool Zonker, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? He's commenting on all these different feeds, but like thoughtfully, not just like trying to like stir up controversy, you know, like he's basically like reading the threads and actually responding in a thoughtful way. So I was following that. I'm like, damn, this guy's actually like into this. And I was, again, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, this must be like another fan who just switched their tag name and they're just going by a different handle, whatever. And then the Mincels guys just caught on to the fact that like, this is the guy. This is Barstool Zonker. This is the guy for the past like 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 years has owned real estate.
Barstool.com.
Just owns Barstool.com. And so I guess all of a sudden, like, we're like, holy fucking shit, this dude is legit. And this is the guy.
Okay.
And so they fucking got to him to DM them and basically say, we're going to come on your fucking show. So next Monday, I think they're recording on a Sunday, but they've invited him to come on their podcast.
I'm in.
So I don't know, man. It's exciting.
I'm interested.
So, and the reason why I was asking you if you watched Barstool Rundown was because, you know, to me, the Barstool Rundown, because like they have, again, similar to kind of like this, but they have all these different channels, right? They have so much content. Barstool is producing podcast after podcast after podcast on like Sirius and on their every fucking channel.
Old school Prez, KFC, Big Cat Rundown.
So
good.
Right. So the Rundown is like their old school way of just kind of like going through whatever happened during that day. And true enough, because this thing is such a thing, it made it onto the Barstool Rundown today.
Nice. I'll watch it. I'll catch up.
Yeah. So it's not until the end. I think it's around like I think that thing is usually like 25, 30 minutes.
Best thing about the Rundown now is enough of this live bullshit. We're back to the boxes. Just
exactly.
Old school Skype video boxes. Prez just shouting at those 2 idiots the whole time.
Exactly.
Love it.
Some of the it's like a little grainy. It's like the sounds
right back to 2013, 2014.
Exactly.
Loved it so
that
much.
Is what it feels like. They're not, instead of being in this like fancy New York studio where they're in like cushy sofas and like
stand that.
high definition.
I mean, not like, nothing against it. I love everything, but yeah, I guess I kind of lost interest. And then last week I saw it starting to kick up with the Skype calls. I was like, all right, good.
Yeah.
Good. And Prez with the frozen pizza reviews has been awesome too.
Yeah.
In his apartment, just fucking around in his purple pants. Awesome. Love it.
Yeah. So that was it. So that was the sort of the exciting thing that happened this week in the Minifan universe. So Zonkers is going to be on the Intel show on Monday.
Nice little crossover. Like it.
Yeah. So that was exciting, man. I don't know why. I guess I really got into it. You know, I was really excited for those guys. And again, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like these people who are, you know, they have a lot of energy. They're producing a lot of content. They're extremely active on all these different channels. And I was really happy for those guys to get this dude on. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be an exciting interview.
Cool. have you? Are we allowed to talk about our fan mail yet? Or
Oh,
speaking
yeah,
of
yeah.
updates in the world
You
and
can
all
go
that?
ahead.
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
You forwarded it over. I was excited to see. We've got some fan mail, some folks showing us some premium buds.
Yes.
Thought it was good to see. Good to catch
So-
up, get a little bit of relatable content from some fans and some friends.
Exactly. So part of exactly the reason why I wanted to get onto that YouTube channel, because I knew that this was going to be something for a lot of people to eat up. Like, I knew people smoke a lot of weed. I know people are obviously into the health and wellness, like all these different layers, and that's the reason why I think I knew that this was going to work. So one show on the YouTube channel, and we just got a flurry of excitement.
Yeah, we've got, I mean, just to quickly recap, we've got like at least 3 or 4 good interviews of either healthcare practitioners, folks that are having issues, want to talk about mental health, or are exercise nuts. I mean, like, it's kind of a full spectrum of guests that are interested.
Totally.
We got folks showing us pictures of weed, checking in with us, tweeting at you. I mean, it's been a good little reception.
Yeah, I mean, the little bump that we got, on that one episode that we had on the YouTube channel was pretty exciting for us. And again, that's like sort of what I was trying to say in the beginning. And I guess Mike, I'm saying this to you, but it was always about this doesn't make any sense, because how is this relating to the Minifan universe and or to our world? And I guess this is exactly what I meant. And I think that you and I, really thinking about including some of these fans as a part of our podcast. And again, we're not just going to bring on people who don't have any, connection to what we're trying to discuss.
No,
but
we'll try to make some points and talk about some relevant stuff. But
yeah, so I was excited. So we got a couple emails from people who are growers. They send us some nice high def shots of the buds that they're growing. And like you said, some health and wellness people, some mental health people, and it's just like, again, it also shows that the diversity of people that are listening to the show. I mean, to me, that was also pretty amazing this week. So we got some amazing feedback from the show. Obviously, our goal is always to continue to get better and do more. And I know the more that we do, the better that we're going to get. And it was also just, I love the fact that, some of these people, some of these fans, some of these people that were listeners of the KMS show were reaching out to us directly, DMing us, sending us emails, and just sort of saying, hey, I love what you guys do. I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to listen every week. So that to me was just like very reassuring that, we're on point with some of the topics that we've discussed.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool. Very cool.
This.
Yeah, go for it, fella.
Fucking delicious.
It should be nice and warmed up there. Oh, yeah, there you go. Excellent.
I love the fanciness of that pen, man. I'm telling you, this is like fucking high end shit.
It's an old pen. That's an old.
I know.
battery,
I know
too.
you say that, but that looks to me
It's
like
nothing special.
shit.
They have way better, way cooler stuff.
So, let's bring this back on par with our brand, and discuss what I think is relevant. And I think this whole social distancing experiment, it's doing an amazing job, I think, as they say, flattening the curve, right? So I can't say about, I know New York's a much different city, and some of these other locations in the United States are much different than Massachusetts. I think we are a little bit more spread out, and not as big as a metropolitan like world as a city like New York. We're obviously on a much smaller scale. So, but I think we're doing a good job keeping the virus, at bay, right? I mean, I know that the cases are going to continue to rise, but I just know that relatively speaking, we're doing a pretty good job.
We're number one right now as of this afternoon or this evening, but only because that's just kind of where we're at with. I'd like to hope with. I don't want to sound ignorant, but with the timeline of everything, we were just next in line as far as like the surge was going to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope we are keeping the flattening that fucking curve. That's for sure.
But again, bringing it back to what we were discussing last week, is that I think that, what is missing from this whole equation is what is the social distancing doing to the people who have, social anxieties, meaning that some of these people are trying to do better and trying to get out in the world, but some of these people are becoming more isolated.
You're told even now more so, inside.
Right. And I was thinking about it this week because there's a friend of ours who is dealing with some psychiatric stuff at the moment, and the person lives alone, and the person is in treatment and does take medications and all these different things. And, they are staying on top of the whole medication piece, but the isolation piece is causing a ton of dysfunction in their life. This is a person who took and went through years of therapy to develop, some tools in their tool belt to be able to go out, be a functioning adult in the world, go to work, be social at social activities, go to a bar, go to a restaurant with friends. And it took years for them to sort of flip that switch. And in the last 3 or 4 weeks, or however long we've been doing this, you could just tell when you speak to that person on the phone that there's been a reversal.
Totally back the other way.
Yeah. And it's someone that is important in our lives that, I check in often. I just want to make sure that the person's doing fine, so it might be a text or a Facebook or something every once in a while, but it's you could feel the flavor, you could feel the difference, even if we're doing this like on a FaceTime or over the phone, you could hear the tone in their voice, and things are starting to shift and starting to change. And I think, for me, again, just being someone who has been in that field for as long as I have, I guess I'm really starting to wonder, how are we doing on that front? And I guess I'm excited to talk to, I think, that mental health professional coming up, because not today, but in a future episode, because I think it'll be interesting for me to hear the people who are currently practicing, because I'm no longer practicing in those types of services, but I'm wondering now what are the kind of conditions that they're dealing with?
Yeah.
And where are people at? And are they frustrated with the way that things are going, the professionals I'm speaking, or are they okay with it? Because obviously they know that there's a reason. Like, I guess I'm always interested in knowing what is that perspective, because there's a difference when it comes to like the consumer, the people who are receiving the services or are taking medication. And then those that are the providers, and
yeah, frustration on all sides.
Yeah.
I think it was what I'm getting at from talking to this person and catching, starting to build some of the notes that I'm getting for this interview.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be frustration. We're going to hear a lot of interesting,
Yeah.
and a lot of frustration given the current times and the current situation.
Yeah. I'm very interested in knowing how that's going.
I mean, I think even just back to like regular average dumb guy shit. Like I saw, a lot of like social media posts about folks doing, these you mentioned the, happy hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of, or the group FaceTimes getting together and everything.
That? There's party. It's like,
I mean, people
I think it's called happy hour.
Yeah, I think people are just getting ready for getting like together for social media, online, happy hour or whatever. And I saw a bunch of friends that the people that I'm friends with doing it and getting into it. And I think for us, like again, back to your average aging, middle-aged dad,
right,
who may not have been like, totally like psyched about talking on video all the time.
Yeah.
Like I got a great text group and an email chain with my college buddies, but we're not necessarily like, like kids are FaceTiming just to call. Like I'm not fucking FaceTiming to call. Like you hear like, back to like Barstool content, like Big Cat always saying like, yeah, everybody's FaceTiming. Like all these NFL players, they just FaceTime each other, like fucking around and hanging out. Like I can't, that's not me, but I'm starting to realize that just even that little bit of sense of community and having that little bit of thing, I think I'm going to try to, get that going with my college buddies a little bit too. Cause I think we're kind of all losing. Like, I think at least I do. I took for granted how easy I could just go to a restaurant with some friends or meet up at a bar or whatever. Totally. And we don't have, I mean, it's obvious we don't have that, but I don't think you realize just how much that kind of affects you in the old brain.
Totally. And I guess that's where I'm going with this. I think that this social distancing experiment, it'll be interesting to see when we have a little bit more of a handle over the virus, what the outcome of this is. And everyone always talks about, what's going to what are going to be some of the biggest changes after this thing, after we sort of recover from this. And, people always talk about, the economy, and they talk about, the jobs, and they talk about kind of like it always comes back to like what people can morely, I guess what they can more closely relate to, which is the physical, right? A lot of people, and it never really comes up on it. No one's ever talking about the social aspect or the mental health aspect,
Yeah.
I mean, and actually, so my father, my wife's father, so my father-in-law, we haven't seen him in 3 weeks. He's a guy in his middle 70s, and we talked about him before in earlier podcasts. He's a very sweet guy. Just one in a million, and a guy again who I could just sit with for hours and just hear him talk. He's a wealth of knowledge. We call them Bob Facts. Like he just has a lot of information, a lot of life experiences that you just can't help but just sit there and listen
He
to.
answered a very important barge question for me in Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
What was the question?
I needed to know what was going on with the barges out in the water. Help me out with some barge questions.
What was it? So there was a big barge in the middle.
I needed to
understand
understand what was going on with them out there. Why were they just hanging? Or there was just barges out there fucking around in the water. I needed to know what was going on.
But what was his response? I forget.
He started talking about the port of Miami and how busy it is, and how a lot of times they'll be hanging out there, and that he didn't exactly get it perfect, but he led me in the direction of that. What happened is they just dropped off, and then if you're XYZ feet or miles or whatever, a mile offshore or whatever, now you're in international waters and it's basically free parking.
Gotcha.
So they'll go drop off at the port of Miami, head a little bit north, get the fuck out of the busy area, camp out around Fort Lauderdale,
drop anchor,
head into Fort Lauderdale, party for a little bit, have a good time. A little cheaper than Miami, still some nice weather, free parking for the old barge. How'd you go?
So he's
barge talk.
I remember that because we were leaning over the railing. I remember that. That was a good day.
I'll always be able to tell you a little bit about. I'll tell you what's going on with the barges, local barges. I'll give you some info anytime.
So Bob pulls up in his Porsche. I
saw the bar, randomly, total random. I saw the Porsche roll up today.
Yeah. So
I think I was taking the trash cans in or something.
So it's been 3 weeks since he's seen us.
It's a rag top, that Porsche too. That thing.
I think he may have both.
A little soft top action.
His other car was the same thing. It was a soft top convertible. So the soft top folds into the car and comes back on.
Dark blue. Nice.
Yeah.
One. Yeah.
That's his new car.
I just saw that roll up today.
Yeah. So he just got that. I want to say within like the last 2 months. So he's had I think a Boxster for.
I was kind of just thinking about wandering over and handing him some weed, like just some flower.
So coincidentally, my wife said we need to talk about this because he had another episode. For those who are listening for the first time, I spoke up about my father-in-law in a past episode because he's an avid golfer, and one of the golfing buddies that he has is a pulmonologist, a lung doctor, and has been trying. So my father-in-law loves to smoke, and he's been trying to get him to smoke weed. He's been trying to get him to stop smoking weed for 100 years, and it wasn't until this whole coronavirus thing that started to come in that he's like, oh, you know what, this is probably right. And so he started to think, all right, so how can I continue to use marijuana without smoking it
and eating edibles?
Well, that's the logical thing, is you consume it by eating it, so you don't have to smoke it. And instead of him, because again, this is how he thinks, he had a large enough supply that he wasn't just going to go, because he also doesn't, I don't think he has a medical card, so he would have to go recreational.
Right.
But he's also a guy in his mid-70s, so I don't see him ever waiting in line, especially in this line that we've been talking about at Brookline. He's not going to be waiting behind like a bunch of
dudes.
He's
not doing that. He's not doing this recreational line. We know this. Yeah. Which is why we've talked about it. He's a prime candidate for to be part of my practice.
Yeah, so he absolutely needs your help. So basically, what he started to do was he looked on the internet, on the web, and he was looking for ways to turn his weed, his flower, into actual consumable, edible weed. Not to make gummies out of it, but like I said to you, the original story was that he was steeping tea.
Right.
So he wanted to make a tea. And that didn't go well for him.
He wigged him out.
That was not a good experiment.
Not a good idea.
So what my wife told me today, what he recently did was he tried to, and I don't even know what steps he took to get it in there, but he tried to get it in milk, so that he would. So imagine this, and I don't even know again how he would do this, but he must have looked it up. But you would turn milk, and you would somehow milk and weed, and then he was adding that to his coffee, and he got sick. He was like throwing up. Like he got super fucking sick.
See my face right now? That sounds horrible. And
so,
so there's a way to.
Yeah. So
there. And again, I'm going to butcher this because I'm no scientist at all. But I guess when the whole thing about when you like bake edibles is the butter. I think the the
wax or-
THC
oh,
attaches itself to the lipids and fats, I
yeah.
think.
Mhm.
And so like you can make weed butter and
Yeah.
oils that kind of
Yeah.
like when you cook it at a certain temperature, it gets into those fats and butters
Mm-hmm.
and oils. And that's why when you make like brownies, you cook it, eat it, it's all infused and you eat
Yeah.
it. So maybe that's something to do with the milk. I don't know, but that's
I have again, like I wasn't there
it's
to
a
ask him,
horrible
but
idea. We can just get him. We can take
yeah,
care of
so
this.
so
Nice light vape. Like I said, it's easy
he
on
needs
the
your help.
lungs. Yeah.
And I also think
I also don't necessarily think that the flower is the worst thing in the world either. But
smoking it.
yeah, I mean, whatever.
Well, I guess the thing about him right now is that this was the reason why he came over, because he hasn't been over here in 3 weeks, because
yeah,
sure, he's basically as a person as mid 70s who he's a survivor of cancer. He has no spleen because there was a huge tumor on it, so that's out of his body.
In the old high risk category. Yeah,
he is the highest of the high. He's like, check every box. That's exactly who he is. So
right.
he is a person who, God forbid, if he ever contracted this, would 1000% be in a very bad situation.
Right.
So I guess because of that,
then that's fair.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't. Yeah.
No, it's fine. But because of that,
some doctor I'm already treating him and making diagnoses without any background at all.
Well, no,
fucking idiot.
He does need your help. That's the point I'm trying to make too. Because
we can think. Obviously, we need a deeper consultation.
Yeah, because he came by, he wanted to see his granddaughter who hasn't seen. I mean, like, and we're talking like, she's 4 months old. So every time he sees her, it's like leaps and bounds. So imagine missing like 3 weeks of a newborn. Like, it's just like, 3 weeks ago, she was like a blob. And
she's making some good faces these days.
Yeah. Now she's smiling, laughing, giggling, moving her arms. You can almost feel like she's communicating with you. So he wanted to see her, but part of this sort of social distancing experiment was he's been home for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And he's also a person who he's got like 7 or 8 or 9 grandkids, whatever. So like, these are all kids that he can't see. Everyone's also being very cautious about bringing the kids around him because they don't want to get him sick. So, this is, and his whole life revolves around these kids. I mean, every weekend, every Saturday, we meet up for lunch, and all of his grandkids are in one restaurant together. Like, this is just what we've been doing for like 5 years, ever since I've been a part of this family. Before Jenny and I were even married, it was just like we would all get together every single Saturday, whether we were just playing basketball, playing hoops, going to the YMCA, whatever. And then we would just meet at the same restaurant every single Saturday. So her dad, who was not with us the whole morning, would be finishing up his golf rounds with his buddies and just show up. And I mean, what perfect environment. Like, you just walk into a restaurant and you have all of your kids and all of your grandkids in one table, or at least most of them. So you take that away from him for the last 3 weeks. I'm like, he's like, I could see it on his face when I saw him. I'm like, man, because he was supposed to go for a walk today with his granddaughter and Jenny. And they were just going to do their social distancing and walk around the block, but like obviously keep their space. But up until Jenny was available, because she was on like work calls, I went outside to talk with him. And we were, and again, someone that I could just fucking talk with for like hours. Like, he's definitely going to come on this podcast at some point, because he's like one of those guys he just has so much to share and so much knowledge. So we're just like shooting the shit for like 25 minutes, and I could just see it on his face that like there's something that's different. And I think it's and the other irony, the irony was that like we were talking on the opposite side of his car, where typically we would be like side by side, sitting in lawn chairs,
pouring some booze together,
sharing, maybe even sharing a cigar, drinking a scotch. Like that's what he and I have shared for the last 4 or 5 years. And here we are now, like on opposite sides of like his car, talking to each other like we're complete fucking strangers. Yeah. And I'm just like, man, it's tough. This experiment is really, I mean, and I'm not even talking about because obviously we talk about the spectrum. Like, I'm talking about a person who's really healthy, mentally wise. And like, and obviously, and I'm a person who I think is in pretty good shape as well. So, we're dealing with the best that we can, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are just fucking having a much harder time than the average, person that's having this experience.
Yeah.
So
no, my in-laws tonight, just before I got here, read my daughter a story over the video, because it was it was like a relief. It was like the first time it had happened, and the first time they had a chance to connect with her in quite some time. And I think it comes back to that same thing. They just needed that little bit of sanity, a little bit of check to see their granddaughter and just hang out with her and listen to her. They just talked to her for 15 minutes and read her a story before she went to bed. It was like probably a huge sanity check for them, set them right for the night. Because same thing, they're kind of like isolated up in Maine.
Yeah.
A little bit older, they know they can't come down. They definitely would have been down, or we would have been down to Florida to see them by now. All those plans were canceled. So yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, and they're typically people that have their shit together.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're hurting over all this. And you know, it's not just our kids. There's other kids on other sides of the family, and my father-in-law's side of the family too. It's a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, I see all those like sad photos of people like waving to their grandparents from like
Yeah,
the window, or
it's
like
terrible.
people like, you know, these things that get around, these older people holding signs saying like, today's my 100th birthday, and like, please retweet to help me. You know, it's like, and I'm just like, fuck.
All
like,
the March birthdays fucked. All the March
I'm looking at
birthdays
that clock.
are
It's fucking 54 minutes already, man.
we did good. We did
We've been
good.
fucking talking
Just
for a
like
while.
Couple weed updates.
Yeah, let's go right into the weed facts.
We had some. I mean, on the topic, obviously, we went into full on lockdown in Massachusetts this week. So we are in the shelter-in-place law, right? So, you know, public gatherings have gone from 25 to 10. Essential employees, as we all know. One of the big facts that you and I were quick to point out and find was that recreational dispensaries are closed. Medical was still deemed essential personnel.
I mean, good for the people who are card carriers. I mean, but
so,
difficult for the people who are not.
So I happen to be a card carrier, of course, as I am a medical professional, and went into exactly. Shout out Sierra Naturals. Went into Sierra Naturals. And
is there a website for that?
Yeah, so we'll tweet that out.
Okay.
We'll give them a shout. They're great. And you know, went into their dispensary here in the Needham area, and appointment only now at this point, because they got to really manage crowds and manage social distancing and all that stuff. So they did a great job. They're basically doing like 1 in, 1 out. So tough to get an appointment. As a matter of fact, I remember looking the night before and seeing they open at 11 and seeing an appointment, 15-minute appointment blocks all the way through, starting at 11, and being like, oh, okay, cool, I'll book the appointment in the morning. Got on in the morning around like 9 or so.
Awful.
Didn't even get in till probably 2:45, I think it was. But it's only because there really are, I think, maybe only 1 or 2 people in at a time. They're doing a very good job of that.
I mean, good. It's very encouraging to hear that. I mean, because like, you know, I have started to follow some of those threads online just to kind of educate myself, and it's obviously something that, you know, people are obviously using as a part of their regimen, right? You know, people are using marijuana, cannabis as a part of their treatment plan. So to know that, you know, that, I mean, it's I'm applauding that as well. You know, again, a person who a year or two ago
would have been like, what the fuck are these punks doing?
Just like, this is a fucking essential. These fucking these crackheads.
So I go in. Everybody's got proper masks on. Everybody's got gloves.
Interesting.
Hand sanitizer everywhere available, like at every corner and every surface. They're putting my ID on a clipboard. So I take my IDs out. They still have to ID me. They usually take both of my IDs, my state ID and my card, run it through the system. They put it on a clipboard now. I hand the clipboard over. They put it on. They just hold the clipboard and then hand it back to me. So they're doing a really good job of that. Then they spray the clipboard down. They have like 6 clipboards all stacked. So they're rotating them out. Just really impressive. Again, everybody's got like gloves and masks. And then, you know, 1 by 1 counter service. Please stand here a little bit back from the counter.
I love hearing this. This is I mean, this is obviously, because you think about, I'm sure CVS is not doing it this cleanly.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I will give Trader Joe's a shout out. They were limiting
I heard about
attendance.
There was like a line down the street,
1 in, 1 out, but then it turns into a goddamn bread line.
So everyone who's trying to avoid this social distancing are now stuck in a line.
I mean,
they're outside, but
I mean, they're closer to the store. The guy who's managing that, or gal who's managing that, is keeping everybody spread apart. But as the line goes down the street, everybody's bunched up together. So it's like, what the fuck are we doing here, guys? But no, shout out Sierra Naturals. I was impressed. I mean, I was a little bit, honestly, my first reaction was a little bit annoyed, but then I obviously got my perspective back and realized that they were doing a great job, and it makes a lot of sense.
Do you know are they changing the law in terms of how much you can buy at a time now? Or
no changes that I saw, nothing like that. As a matter of fact, I think everything just kind of went through for the year, because there was a bunch of changes just to like how the commission is processing, and there was a handover with a different commission group and all that kind of stuff in Massachusetts. But no changes to the laws. As far as I know, it's still like 10 ounces a month or something.
Which you said it can last you like.
It's a crazy amount of weed I can have on at any time. But
Any other updates for on the weed end? Or are we
No, I think that was it. I just thought that was
Yeah.
interesting that
Interesting.
no more rec, but the marijuana is an essential.
Yeah.
The medical is essential at this point, and then now it's sort of a hot commodity, and it seems that appointments are booking pretty fast,
Yeah.
and it's like one in, one out type of stuff.
So bringing it back to Bob. So, that was the other thing that that my wife was really upset about, was that he hooked up with his old dealer.
he did.
Yeah. So he met him. I think he had to drive all the way to like Braintree, which, from where we are is like a fucking hike.
Yeah.
At like in like the parking lot of a mall. So he's like going back to like, well, I mean, like if you think about, he's literally doing what we all did like 20 years ago.
This is a great example of why the program works.
Yeah.
By the way.
So
why it does work.
We need to maybe we'll get him on sooner than later so we can have a conversation with him about this. He has the technology at home to come in on our fucking broadcast. So we'll send him the link.
Yeah,
next
we
time.
can parse him in here, splice him in here, right?
He's also fucking hilarious. So, yeah, we're gonna do that. So we'll get some Bob facts on. We'll actually ask him some random questions too about things that have nothing to do with it.
I like it.
And then you can provide your consultation to make sure that he knows what he needs to do.
We should definitely have a chat about. Yeah, we should definitely have a little chat about what his regimen is.
Yeah,
what he's getting into.
He just needs a smack upside his head, man. Like because like I know that you can't OD and die from consuming too much,
but he puts himself down. He tranquilizes himself
basically.
Pretty good,
I mean, like to get himself to a point where he's like, I mean, he's probably overdosing, right?
I think I've said this too. He needs like a light sativa is what we got to do. We got to get like more of a light, heavy, like a light, heady type of high, not a some sort of crazy couch lock indica that basically puts him into a slumber.
Yeah, basically. And plus I have no idea who this fucking dude is, who he's buying his shit from. So like, who knows?
Right, you don't know. You're just getting whatever he's getting.
You're just getting whatever he's getting, and you're paying whatever.
Whereas if you went to a dispensary, he would have a selection. We could kind of
he can ask questions,
different strengths,
he needs that fucking menu, man. Like, and I would love to document that experience for him because I think he would just like, I've seen him laugh and be so happy that he cries. Like, he's a very sensitive, like, older man. And I know that if we were able to help him along this path and get him in the sort of the shape that I think he needs to be in, I think he would just be like, delighted about it. Like, I think he would just be so happy to do this. So
we'll do it. Let's do a little screen share. We can share the menu with them online.
Oh yeah.
Fuck around with them on it.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I sound like I'm a fucking like. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Well, you are a good lead host, though. You do a good job.
Whatever, man.
Host. You've got that one. Like, you've got that good like host voice.
Well, either way, I'm looking forward to Zonker on the Mincel Intel show. Cool. I'm really excited for that. I hope it works out well for them. I hope they ask a lot of tough questions, and I hope we really get to hear his perspective on what's been going on for the past 10 plus years. Because again, like, Barstool is a fucking, like, it's just a monster right now. And imagine if there's someone who just, if he owned just that much little real estate in that guy's mind, you just kind of, it's sort of an exciting thing. I just want to know what's going on.
It's a hell of a crossover. I'm interested.
All right, guys. Peace.
Super Lemon Haze.
Talk to you later.
What is this?
Is it over?
We're running out of time.
I don't want to hear your excuses. No, it's not fair.
Where'd all the files go?